with businesses around the globe faced with challenges that have not been seen for generations. Pandemics, of course, social movements, global change, there's equality, privilege, everything in between as well. What are the lessons business leaders need to learn as we stride down a very unknown path towards the future? World-leading experts in human behavior and author of the book Add Value, Mark Carter, joins us live. Mark, thanks for joining us at TICKER.
Thanks, Ahron. Nice to see you.
Yeah, very much so. Appreciate your time. So Add Value, talk to us about the renewed focus at the moment when we talk about values for individuals.
Yeah, sure. It's, in the past couple of decades, there's been this increasing kind of focus on profit or win at all costs. And we've seen that playing out with even fields like sport. I don't know if you've seen that documentary, Icarus, or even things like the Cricket Oz, the culture that came up there. And so we've got to think about our broader impact other than results alone. And so really that's what the model highlights, is this renewed focus on building value in different ways, service value, relationship value, emotional value amongst them, and not just the results only.
It feels like COVID has really sped this up, hasn't it? From a business perspective, we often talk about the jobs of the future, which are going to be people working from home. And there's this been frustration from a lot of people that they've had to wait this long that it took COVID actually to allow people to have that flexibility. And it's those sorts of values we talk about, understanding people, human behavior, that has come to the fore right now.
Absolutely. I'm sure in your time as well in media, Ahron, you would have seen the shift, right, with this move to more focus on corporate social responsibility. I mean, CSR is now spoken about far more frequently, and it's a part of a standard playbook for businesses now than it ever was before. And I think certainly we've seen that amplified as people are reflecting more in isolation and lockdown and what their values really are and what they value, what's important.
It's interesting though. I mean, I've seen several things. So one thing, businesses are also embroiled in a lot more lawsuits. So they're taking that into consideration, that, human beings are very complex characters and businesses are protecting themselves. So quite often corporations are feeling even more corporate at the moment, even though they're trying to do the right thing by people. They are still essentially trying to, take a step back. It's not the kind of, have a good old chat around the pub culture of years gone by. So we've kind of won some and lost some at the same time.
Yes, I mean, and this is it. There's some dangers, we've just got to think that we're in an era where our faux pas in business might be magnified. But then there's things we can do better to make sure that we communicate that more effectively. I actually had a great conversation with Latia Curry over in America. She works with Raleigh Communications recently, and they published a feature as well on how brands can really follow through on the values they're selling. And they have this really beautiful model where you've just got to really think more about what are the topics you're issue fluent on and what are the topics you're structurally sound in, because those are the ones you want to jump on and champion the cause for. It's not about jumping on behind every cause that you see. It's not just reacting and jumping on one that's trending. It's really taking stock of the ones that you're in a good position to support. And I think this is where if businesses do that and they do that more authentically, they're at less risk of those pushbacks or the blowbacks.
I guess the thing that I worry about though, when it comes to businesses that are getting onto social issues, is it can feel also a little bit forced, a little bit like peer pressure as well, where organizations that used to stand for something are now all of a sudden crumbling very quickly when it comes to pressure mounting. And we know what can happen with Twitter and the avalanche that can create, where all of a sudden you're forced into a crisis. On the one hand, it can create positive change, like we saw at Rio Tinto, the huge backlash against the Aboriginal site, which was destroyed by Rio Tinto. Emails were discovered, the fact that lawyers had been hired in advance knowing that there would be something on the other side. The social media side worked pretty strongly. But then there are other things that are being forced by people on social media, the kind of keyboard warriors who actually don't care that much about an issue. They're just outraged, and that outrage creates businesses that don't have backbones. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are definitely in a time, as you point out, the keyboard warriors, right? Everybody can publish, everybody can aggregate messages. And so I think it's to not be afraid of that, right? That's going to happen. And just to really embrace it. If you're really living your values strongly as businesses, and you've got credibility, you're competent, you're covered in what you're doing, then even if you do make some errors along the way, you can take a mea culpa and they're pretty much accepted. You can get yourself out of that, or people will accept that fairly strongly. And I think the danger though with the keyboard warrior side is credible people or credible businesses might not want to make a voice or a stand, but indeed it's that boldness that historically is the only thing that advances great causes anyway. So I think it's this balancing act of just really being mindful of what it is you're championing.
Yeah, it is very true, isn't it? And I think we talk about some of the big businesses with social consciences. The first one that comes to mind for me is Qantas during the same-sex marriage debate, where you actually had the CEO come out saying, look, you know, we have a lot of members of the LGBTI community who are part of Qantas, and therefore we really support this. We think it's something that should be done. There were a lot of conservative politicians who questioned the role of business when it came to these sorts of things too. What we've started to see as well is this rise up of activist shareholders who are showing that they really care about the social conscience of a business as well.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that. And I love the example you cited. Qantas is a great one. I think Atlassian as well, another great example, when they talk to things like climate change, you know, and you look at the building and the construction they look at doing and supporting their employees with time off to support those causes. So these are classic examples of businesses that are walking their talk. Qantas as well spring to mind because if I came from a background in tourism and travel, and that industry is being hit quite hard for the impact on issues like climate change, right? And the impact aviation has there. And yet you look at businesses like Qantas, they're really on the front foot with that as well, you know, and they're stripping out single-use plastics. They're encouraging people to buy in and adopt that carbon offset. So I think this is great examples of businesses that are doing it well, backing causes, and then walking their talk, which is the more important thing.
Yeah, very much so. All right, absolutely fantastic to talk to you on this. Could keep talking about it all day. Very much appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ahron.